There are moments in wrestling that transcend entertainment and become something darker, something that crawls under your skin and refuses to leave. Bray Wyatt didn't just create a character when he became the Fiend. He opened a window into the human psyche and invited us all to stare into the abyss. Today, we're not just analyzing quotes. We're performing an autopsy on a soul. 5 phrases that didn't just define the Fiend, but revealed the beautiful horror of what happens when a man loses himself completely and finds something far more terrifying in the darkness. He wasn't just a wrestler, he was a horror film with a theme song, and these 5 quotes, they were the breadcrumbs leading us deeper into his personal hell. Quote 1, "Let me in." 3 words, whispered like a prayer, repeated like a mantra, delivered like a threat wrapped in silk. But what was Bray Wyatt really asking for when he spoke those words into the void? This wasn't just the Fiend's calling card, it was an invitation to damnation. Every time those words echoed through the Firefly Funhouse, they carried the weight of temptation itself. Think about it. When has anyone in your life whispered "let me in" and meant anything good? It's what the serpent said to Eve. It's what vampires whisper at your window. It's what that dark voice in your head says at 3 a.m. when you're alone with your worst thoughts. But here's where it gets beautiful and terrifying. Bray wasn't just asking us to let the Fiend into our world. He was begging us to let him into our minds, to surrender our defenses, to stop fighting the darkness we all carry and just give in. Watch his eyes when he says it. There's desperation there. A man drowning in his own psyche, reaching out for connection the only way he knew how, through fear, through manipulation, through the promise that if we just opened that door, we wouldn't have to carry our pain alone anymore. Let me in wasn't a threat, it was a confession. A broken man admitting that he needed us as much as we were drawn to him. The predator and prey relationship blurred until you couldn't tell who was hunting whom. And the most chilling part of us wanted to, part of us still does. Quote 2, "He's here." 2 words that shattered the 4th wall between sanity and madness. When Bray Wyatt announced the Fiend's arrival, he wasn't introducing a character, he was acknowledging the monster that had been living inside him all along. Listen to how he says it. Not "I'm here," not "we're here." He's here. 3rd person, detached. Like he's reporting on something happening to him rather than something he's controlling. This is dissociation in its purest, most terrifying form. Bray Wyatt had spent years being misunderstood, his creativity stifled, his vision diluted. The frustration, the rejection, the slow erosion of everything he believed wrestling could be, it all crystallized into something else. Something that wore his face but wasn't quite him anymore. "He's here" was Bray's surrender speech. The moment he stopped trying to contain what years of disappointment and buried rage had created. It's Dr. Jekyll finally accepting that Mr. Hyde isn't going away. It's every abuse survivor recognizing that the coping mechanism they created to survive has now become its own entity. The genius of this phrase lies in its psychological accuracy. Trauma does create separate selves. Pain does birth monsters. And sometimes, those monsters become so real, so powerful, that the original person becomes just a spectator to their own destruction. When Bray said he's here, he wasn't introducing the Fiend to us, he was introducing the Fiend to himself, and in that moment, we all became witnesses to the most intimate horror of all, watching someone lose the battle for their own soul. Quote 3, "Yowie wowie." Of all the phrases we're exploring today, this one might be the most heartbreaking. Hidden behind 2 silly words is the sound of a man's sanity cracking in real time. Picture this. You're drowning, but you have to keep smiling. You're falling apart, but the cameras are rolling. You're being consumed by something dark and hungry, but you're a children's television host. So you have to keep the energy up, keep the facade going, keep pretending everything is wonderful when everything is falling apart. Yowie wowie isn't a catchphrase, it's a nervous breakdown set to a jaunty tune. It's the verbal equivalent of a jack-in-the-box, bouncing up and down with manic energy, because if it stops moving, it might realize how broken it really is. Listen to how forced it sounds, especially in later episodes. The enthusiasm becomes strained, like a rubber band stretched to its breaking point. Bray is playing the role of happy-go-lucky host, while the Fiend is literally clawing his way to the surface. The cognitive dissonance is overwhelming. This is what makes the Fiend's storyline so brilliant and so tragic. Yowie wowie represents every fake smile we've ever worn, every "I'm fine" we've lied through our teeth, every moment we've played the cheerful role while dying inside. The most chilling part? As the Fiend's presence grew stronger, Yowie wowie became less frequent, more desperate. like a man trying to remember who he used to be before the darkness took over. A life preserver thrown by a drowning man to himself, hoping against hope that his old self might catch it. By the end, when he'd say it, you could hear the ghost of who Bray used to be, trying desperately to break through. And it was devastating. Quote 4, "I'm not a bad guy, but I do bad things sometimes." Here it is, the most human moment in the entire Fiend saga. 7 words that perfectly capture the war between who we are and who we become when we're in pain. That pause, but, carries the weight of 1,000 sleepless nights. It's the sound of a man trying to reconcile the monster he's become with the person he remembers being. It's every abuser who was once abused, every villain who started as a victim, every good person who looked in the mirror one day and didn't recognize what stared back. Bray isn't making excuses here. He's not deflecting responsibility. He's stating a truth so raw it hurts. Sometimes good people do terrible things. Sometimes the pain becomes so overwhelming that hurting others feels like the only way to make it stop. Sometimes the victim becomes the victimizer, not out of malice, but out of a desperate need to externalize the agony. The genius of this line is in its universality. We've all been there. Maybe not to the Fiend's extent, but we've all had moments where we've acted in ways that contradict who we believe ourselves to be. We've all said words we can't take back, made choices we regret, become temporary monsters in moments of pain or fear or rage. "I'm not a bad guy" is Bray pleading with us, and with himself, to remember that there's still something redeemable underneath all the horror. It's a man drowning in his own darkness, throwing up one final flare to signal that somewhere beneath the monster, the person he used to be is still alive, still fighting, still hoping to be saved. But that acknowledges the terrible truth. Intention doesn't erase impact. Being broken doesn't excuse breaking others. And sometimes, the road to hell really is paved with good intentions and justified pain. Quote 5. "Abandon hope, all ye who exit here. Dante's Inferno, the gates of hell." But Bray Wyatt twisted it, perverted it into something even more hopeless. The original reads, "Abandon all hope, ye who enter here." A warning to those foolish enough to venture into damnation. But Bray's version? It's for those trying to leave. This isn't just literary reference. It's a masterclass in psychological horror. The Firefly Funhouse isn't just a place you visit. It's a place that infects you, changes you, refuses to let you go unchanged. It's the trauma that follows you home. It's the depression that makes every exit feel like a lie. It's the addiction that convinces you that sobriety is the real prison. Think about what this means for Bray himself. He's not just warning visitors, he's trapped in his own creation. The Funhouse became his purgatory, a place where he's forced to perform happiness while being consumed by darkness. Every day he tries to leave, to be normal, to escape what he's become. But the sign reminds him, there is no exit, there is no going back, there is only descent. This quote represents the most sophisticated understanding of mental illness in wrestling history. Depression doesn't just hurt when you're in it, it convinces you that trying to get better is futile. Trauma doesn't just wound you, it rewrites your entire relationship with hope itself. "Abandon hope, all ye who exit here" is Bray's resignation letter to his own recovery. It's him admitting that the Fiend isn't just a character he plays, it's who he's become. And anyone who tries to leave that darkness behind, anyone who tries to heal, anyone who tries to find their way back to the light, they're just fooling themselves. It's the most beautiful, most terrifying surrender in sports entertainment history. And it makes the Fiend's eventual silence not feel like an ending, but like a mercy. These 5 quotes weren't just wrestling promos. They were a man's psychological autobiography, written in real time, performed for millions, and carved into our collective memory. Bray Wyatt didn't just create the Fiend, he gave us a roadmap to his own dissolution. What makes this so powerful, so lasting, is that Bray never treated wrestling like a joke. He treated it like art, like therapy, like a chance to explore the deepest, darkest corners of human experience and somehow make them beautiful. The Fiend wasn't just a character. He was what happens when creativity meets trauma, when artistry collides with pain, when a performer stops hiding behind their persona and lets their wounds become their wings. Every "let me in" was a prayer. Every "he's here" was a eulogy. Every "yowie wowie" was a last desperate grasp at innocence. Every "I'm not a bad guy" was a confession. And that final "abandon hope" was both warning and epitaph. Bray Wyatt gave us something unprecedented in wrestling, a character study of a soul in freefall. And he did it with such beauty, such honesty, such devastating precision that we couldn't look away. We didn't want to look away. The Fiend lives on because he was never really a wrestling character at all. He was a mirror, and in him we saw our own monsters, our own struggles, our own desperate need to be understood even at our worst. What quote from the Fiend stuck with you the most? Which one made you look a little deeper into your own darkness? And which superstar should we explore next in this journey through the psychology of wrestling's greatest minds? Let me know in the comments below. And remember, sometimes the most beautiful art comes from the deepest pain. Bray Wyatt proved that. The Fiend proved that. And maybe, just maybe, we're all a little braver for having witnessed it.